Well, look, this is another example of an illegal alien killing American citizens. It's almost a daily occurrence now. You know, because historic number of criminal aliens walking the streets because of this administration's policy in sanctuary jurisdictions and lax immigration enforcement. ICE has their hands tied. Secretary Mayorkas have given them priorities that they can't even go arrest an illegal alien anymore unless he's convicted. Under his guidance, under his leadership, first of all, it's his policies that cause over 500,000 of children being smuggled in this country, trafficked in this country, and they lost track with 340,000 of them. His lips are moving, he's lying, and he needs to be held accountable. Nothing he said in that interview is truthful.
Our main man, Tom Homan, reacts to the horrific crime of this illegal immigrant who was already deported before under Trump's administration, coming back into the country under Biden's administration, and burning a woman alive on the New York City subway. Tom even goes into Secretary Mayorkas and the lies he just told in a recent interview. It's itsSeanDaniel here. If you enjoy the videos and you want to support me for free, you can just hit the subscribe button. And to all you guys who are subscribed, thank you so much.
Well, look, this is another example of an illegal alien killing American citizens. It's almost a daily occurrence now. You know, because historic number of criminal aliens walking the streets because of this administration's policy in sanctuary jurisdictions and lax immigration enforcement. ICE has their hands tied. Secretary Mayorkas have given them priorities that they can't even go arrest an illegal alien anymore unless he's convicted of a serious crime. Then maybe they can arrest him. So this is on this administration. As far as Governor Hochul, shame on her. She supports sanctuary status in that state. She welcomed thousands of illegal aliens to her state. She sent them to Buffalo and Syracuse. Murders occurred by illegal aliens in Buffalo and Syracuse. She has a green light law. ICE and CBP can't even work with local law enforcement. Local law enforcement can't even share DMV data with these people. So Governor Hochul, shame on you. There's nothing you can say that's going to make this right in New York.
All right. You didn't get a chance to see Secretary Mayorkas in his exit interview on CBS. Talked about how proud he is that the border is down to 50,000. So the problem is virtually solved. Here's what he said, though, when pressed by Margaret Brennan about how he loses track of children. Watch.
We certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking. But there are children who are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move, and sometimes the government loses track.
So does that explain everything? What should I know about his statement?
It's nothing but lies. Nothing but lies. Border numbers aren't down. They're just putting them through the CBP One app and the CHNV app. You add those programs together, what Border Patrol's catching the gotaways, we're still at historic numbers. They were bragging the other day that ICE has over 247,000 removals, the most in a decade. No, they don't. If you look at the data, 80% of them were Border Patrol apprehensions that ICE just simply put across the border. ICE interior enforcement numbers are historic lows. And as far as the children, another lie. Under his guidance, under his leadership, first of all, it's his policies that cause over 500,000 of children being smuggled in this country, trafficked in this country, and they lost track with 340,000 of them. His lips are moving, he's lying, and he needs to be held accountable. Nothing he said in that interview is truthful.
So if Mayorkas is claiming that some of the deportation or send away numbers are good, Tom's saying that doesn't have to do with ICE. You're talking about Border Patrol apprehensions, not ICE doing something within the country, going to get illegals who are already in the country. No, that doesn't happen because Mayorkas won't let it happen because Sanctuary City mandates won't allow it to happen.
ICE was also unable to account for more than 32,000 unaccompanied kids who failed to appear in court from 2019 to 2023, according to the report we read. The incoming border czar, Tom Homan, says these children are being exploited and trafficked. Is that true?
Well, Margaret, we certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. What we do is we turn children over within 72 hours, as the law requires, to the Department of Health and Human Services, and then HHS places those children. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking, but there are children who are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move, and sometimes the government loses track. Individuals do not comply with their reporting obligations or otherwise. I think it is inaccurate to say that all of them are trafficked or victimized. There are a number of reasons why we might lose track of an individual. That is not necessarily specific to this administration. That has been a long-standing challenge in the immigration system. One example of why that system is so broken, why the duration of time in proceedings is unacceptably long and has to be remedied. Remember, we're dealing with a system that was last reformed in 1996.
Again, that's not true, because Trump tried to reform it by building a wall which would deter them, by enacting Remain in Mexico, which they re-reformed and got rid of as soon as Biden took office. But according to Mayorkas, remember, Biden and the other people, the Democrats, they tried to do great reform recently, but the Republicans wouldn't let it happen because of political reasons.
We then turned to the bipartisan negotiations, which proved successful, which were then killed. The result of it, a really terrific solution, was killed by irresponsible politics. Looking back now in hindsight, in 2020, if we had known that irresponsible politics would have killed what was clearly a meritorious effort and a meritorious result, perhaps we would have taken executive action more rapidly.
Because Republicans argue in this back and forth over whose job it is to fix the problem. Congress would argue there was executive authority that could have been used before Congress legislated. And they point back to the crisis starting at day one when Trump-era immigration policy was peeled back, Remain in Mexico, the 100-day moratorium on most deportations that was announced, the halt to wall construction. Did those measures, and I know you weren't yet in office personally, but did those measures set you up for failure?
Remember something, Remain in Mexico is touted as the great panacea. The trend lines of migration were increasing quite exponentially from 2018 to 2019, and that is reflected worldwide. And then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Remember something also about the executive action that the president took in June of this year. We also, over time, built capabilities that we did not previously have. Not just domestically, the number of facilities that we stood up, the ability to transport individuals and decompress areas that were experiencing surges of individuals, but our negotiations with Mexico, with other countries in Latin America, and around the world. We are now removing or returning more individuals in 3 years than the prior administration did in 4. And we are doing so not only greater in volume, but greater in speed because of the negotiations with other countries and to more countries than has ever been the case.
Okay, even if that is true, which we do not believe it is, logically it would make sense if they were just deporting at a lower rate than the Trump administration did. They're going to overall deport way more people. Why? Because way more people are coming now. Why? Because you have the CBP One app. Why? Because the border does not have Remain in Mexico. You can just come, have your claim asylum, stay in America, have your hearing a year, 10 months, year and a half later, get told you need to be deported, and never go. So even if they're deporting some people, by percentage of how many people are flooding the border, which is way more than when Trump was in office, that could be true that they're actually deporting more people just because the percentages are so high. The amount is so high, how many people are coming here. But do we believe any of that? No. He wants the border open. He did not address the Remain in Mexico thing. He did not address the way that Biden has just allowed everybody in. And now, because of those policies, we have an illegal like this killing yet another American.
Police in New York say they have a person of interest in custody after a woman was set on fire and burned to death on a subway train. It doesn't
Allegedly.
sound real. Kelly Beeson is in the newsroom for us following the story. Kelly, so it was likely a woman who was homeless, sleeping on the train at the time.
Yeah, we definitely can confirm, Adrian, that she was in fact sleeping, but authorities are staying tight-lipped about her identity. Here's what we know so far. She was so badly burned, she had to be identified through dental records. This is an absolutely horrific story that unfolded Sunday morning, Adrian. Police have not released her identity again, but they have released a photo of the suspect who they now have in custody, a man who officials say arrived in the U.S. from Guatemala. This was back in 2018. He's 33 years old and was most recently living in a homeless shelter in New York City. Police say he lit the woman on fire using a lighter while riding the F train with her. She was apparently asleep at the time, adding that when the fire started, he got off the train and sat on the bench on the platform outside of the train car, watching her burn.
It's just despicable. And since he was able to come into the country in 2018, that shows you that even Trump's policies then, what he was trying to initiate, were not fully set in stone and fully stopping this illegal migration thing. Now, it was great that he was deported under Trump's administration, but then again, he came right back under Biden administration, back into the country because of these policies that are going on by the Biden administration, by Mayorkas. But hopefully, Big Daddy Tom Homan is going to make a big change when he gets in office soon. It's itsSeanDaniel here. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing or watching some more right here or supporting me with a YouTube membership down below. I'll see you in the next one.